Welcome to Around Town, featuring what's happening here in the greater Concord area. I'm your host, Dick Patten, and yes, I'm all ready for St. Patrick's Day, getting my greenery out, and also looking forward to spring. And of course, baseball has started up down in Florida with their exhibition games, and I still think we're going to get a major snowstorm. I'm probably be wrong, and probably should be wrong, but I still can't believe we have not had a major snowstorm yet here in New Hampshire, but who knows? But my guest today is Barbara Lassonde, and Barbara, of course, used to be in Concord for many years and wrote the West Side for the Town Crier, for the Monitor, and just been a very active lady. And now she and her husband are out in Warner, and they are producing maple syrup. Yes, it's maple syrup season. And it's now Beaver Meadow, Brook Farm, Sugar House. Anything else to put with it? I can't remember.
It's in Warner, on
in
Route
Warner,
103.
Route 103. So, because I remember, and I found it the other day on there, but it said that you were still in Concord. So I didn't realize you had moved out there. But you've got how many acres of trees or something?
We have 14 acres.
Wow, 14 acres of trees. And they're all, now how do you tap the trees? The old-fashioned way with the buckets, or this new way with the tubes? Or the...
We have a few trees around the sugar house that we hang buckets on.
Okay.
All the rest is tubing.
Really?
It saves a lot of labor.
Does it?
Yes. So my husband and I can do it.
Now,
ourselves.
Do you keep the tubing up all year, or is it just...
No, we keep it up all year.
No deviltry, though? Thank goodness.
We haven't had any problem with that, except for the squirrels.
Really?
They're the real devils around our place. And this year especially, they chewed up the tubing in many, many places. So Don had to do a lot of repairs.
Why would they... I don't understand. What's the attraction? I mean, they can't...
I don't know.
Would think they would kill them by eating that...
I don't know that they eat it. They just bite into it and cause a leak.
Now, do you have like big containers through the woods, or does it go directly right to the sugar house?
We have a large container right near the sugar house.
Yeah.
That we have about 125 taps running into.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
And then at the foot of our driveway, which is downhill, we have a tank on each side of the driveway with about another 100 taps running into each one.
My goodness.
So we have over 300 taps now.
Gee. Now, how much syrup did you make last year? Was last year a good year for maple syrup?
Well, it was a fair year for us. The year before was worse.
Yeah.
So last year was a fairly good year. I don't remember exactly how many gallons we made, but in a really good year, we can make 50 gallons. I think we made like 38 or 40 last year.
Wow.
Something like that.
It's amazing because when I was a kid, my grandmother lived in Salisbury, and they had a small farm up there. Of course, she lived in East Andover. They had a much bigger farm. Then my grandfather died. But then they moved to Salisbury. But they used to tap a few trees up there, and they would be making maple syrup. But she said it would take so much sap. You think you had all this, but then you had to take what? It takes so much sap to make a...
It takes more than 40 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of maple syrup.
My goodness. So
there's a tremendous amount of boiling involved. You have to evaporate off 39 gallons of water.
My goodness.
But many of the large producers now have reverse osmosis machines that they use, and they run the sap through that, and that takes out a lot of the water before it goes into the evaporator. So then they don't have to boil as long. But that equipment is extremely expensive, so you have to be a large producer in order to justify buying it, and we're a small producer.
Sure. But still, like now, last year obviously was a real bad winter. No doubt about it. It was but it was a winter that I remember as a kid growing up we used to have.
Yes.
Now this year, because to me I don't think we've ever seen winter. We did have that cold weekend, I think 2 weeks ago, when they told you to stay indoors, don't go outside because it was like 40 below zero wind chill factor. But someone was saying on TV the other day that some people were actually tapping trees in January. Is that true?
Yes, yes. We had about a week of warm weather before that cold spell. And actually, we tapped a few trees the 2nd of February.
Really?
Which was almost a month earlier than we normally do. But some producers were tapping in January. and the larger producers got enough sap to boil.
My gosh.
We didn't get enough, but...
Now, does that hurt the overall production? They say, like, if the sap is running and you start to make syrup, then all of a sudden, boom, it stops because of the cold weather and all this. Then it starts up again, say, a month later or a few... Does that hurt the overall, not production, but the flavor or the quality of the syrup?
No,
don't.
Because that's the way the weather is during the sugaring season. We have some warm days and some cold days. It thaws out and the sap runs, and then it freezes up for 2 or 3 days. And it's off and on like that all during the season. If we get a cold spell during the season, sometimes when the sap starts flowing again, it'll be a little bit lighter than it was.
Really?
Because usually you make the light grades of syrup at the beginning of the season, and as the season progresses, it naturally gets darker. So at the end of the season, you're making the darker grades.
See, I don't understand all that, because the darker grades of that, is that more of a sweeter taste, or break that down for me, Barbara?
Okay, sure.
A little bit.
The lighter grades have a delicate maple flavor.
Okay.
And the darker grades have a stronger, more robust maple flavor. They all have the same sugar content, the same density. They're all made the same, but the darker grades just have a stronger flavor. We have a new grading system.
Well, that's what
It was optional last year for the maple producers, so some of them used it and some of them didn't. But this year it's mandatory.
Really?
So on this side is the old grading system: grade A light amber, grade A medium amber, grade A dark amber, and the grade B. And that's what most people are accustomed to.
What was grade B?
It was the darkest grade that we could sell.
Okay.
And if you're going to cook with maple syrup, that's the ideal kind to use, because it will impart the flavor into whatever you're making.
Okay.
On the right is the new grading system, and you can see the colors blend together a little bit. We no longer have a grade B. It's all grade A.
Yeah.
Grade A golden delicate is the lightest. Grade A amber with a rich taste is the next. And grade A dark with a robust taste. And then grade A very dark with a strong flavor.
Wow.
All the different states and Canada all had different grading systems.
Really?
Some of the New England states use the Vermont grading system.
Yeah.
But some of the states had no grading system at all. They just called it maple syrup.
Wow.
So at the International Convention of Maple Producers, they all got together and they decided they needed to have a standard grading system
For sure.
that everyone would use, because people are selling over the internet, and that was just very confusing for the customers.
Oh, yeah.
Because if they bought syrup from, say, Minnesota, it would be graded differently than the syrup from New Hampshire.
Oh, for goodness sake.
So now this new grading system on the right takes effect this year. And so everybody should be using that.
So whether you tap early or tap late, it doesn't matter what the quality is going to be, or say, like, would you get the golden delicate taste more so at the first of the season, or
Yes.
Okay, and then at the end of the season, you're going to get the very dark.
Yes.
Okay, and of course, you need the warm days and cold nights, right?
Right. Ideal temperatures for a good sap flow is in the upper 20s at night and in the 40s during the daytime,
Really?
with the sun shining and little wind.
Yeah.
If it's really windy, the trees feel the wind chill and the sap will slow down.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, isn't that something? How many, out of curiosity, how many states are involved in maple syrup? Do you have an idea?
Yeah, there are 14 states
14 states.
that make maple syrup commercially.
Really?
Yeah. And New Hampshire, I believe, is number 6 on the list in amount of production.
Wow.
Vermont produces the most,
Really?
and that's why everybody hears about Vermont maple
made,
syrup,
yeah, I'm
because
sure.
they do produce the most. But Maine and New York are large producers too.
Huh. Now
And
what about,
Pennsylvania makes quite a bit.
is that because of the Amish down there, maybe?
Yes, I know. I know they make maple syrup, but I think
Yeah.
other people do too.
Sure. Oh, interesting. What about like Rhode Island or Connecticut? Do those southern?
They make some.
They do too.
Rhode Island, I don't know if they aren't on the list as being a
Sure.
commercial producer.
Yeah.
So I don't think they make enough to even record it.
I know when I've got some friends out in Michigan because I'm a diehard Michigan Wolverine fan, and so when I go out in September to a game, I've got some friends in the Michigan football office out there that I've taken some syrup out to, and oh boy, they can't wait for me to come out again because they just now whether Michigan, I'm sure Michigan must make it,
Yes, they do.
but for some reason they just love the New Hampshire taste of it, and
The difference is the minerals in the soil.
oh really?
Michigan maple syrup will probably taste different than New Hampshire maple syrup because we have different minerals in our soil.
Really?
And
I
that
see.
flavors the syrup.
Oh, and see, I wouldn't have guessed that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know this one in particular, this gentleman, and he said his wife keeps saying, "Have you seen your friends yet from New Hampshire? Because we're out of maple syrup. Can you send a note to him to send some more out, or whatever?" And but he doesn't. But I said, "No, just let me know, and I'll gladly send you some." But
Yeah, maple syrup is made primarily in the northeast corner of the United States. As far west as Michigan and Minnesota, and as far south as northern part of West Virginia.
oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
In the mountains there.
Because I have another young friend out in Washington State. He calls me Pops, and they can't get it out there at all. So he always asks me to send him out some or bring it with me when I see him in September. Because he says they just love maple syrup. And
Yeah, it's very difficult to get once you get out of that northeastern quadrant of the country.
I know it's funny because when you go in a store and you see, I shouldn't pick on Vermont Made, but some of those commercial brands that they say that they are maple syrup, but they really
They are real maple syrup. They have maybe 2% real maple syrup in them
really oh my
at the
goodness.
most.
Huh.
But they're mostly corn syrup
Really?
flavored.
Oh, for goodness sake,
Yeah.
no, I wouldn't have guessed that, known that. Yeah, there's Vermont Made. What's the other one?
Log cabin.
That's it, Log Cabin. I mean, I always like the pictures. The pictures are nice, but because I have to laugh, some have the old tin can type picture with the snow and the horses and the people, out in the woods there emptying the sap in the buckets there.
I've done that.
Yeah. But and then of course, what is the famous? Now they have a sugar day, don't they, in March or something?
Yes, Maple Weekend.
Maple Weekend.
It's a statewide event, and sugar houses all over the state are open to visitors, and they give free tours and free samples.
Really? Yeah.
So forth. And our sugar house will be open Maple Weekend as well.
Oh, okay.
And that's going to be March 19th and 20th this year.
Is that early or no?
Yes, it's a week early because Easter falls on the next weekend. And we usually have it
yes.
the fourth weekend, but had to move it up a
Yeah.
week this year.
Yeah, Easter really being early really kind of screws a lot of things up. Well, I just don't think of Easter in March, but I know it does happen every so often. You'll get it in March, but
Yeah. But
yeah.
we're open from 10 to 4 on Maple Weekend, and we're right on Route 103 in Warner, just 1.3 miles from Exit 7.
I was going to say, is it
we're right
exit
near
7 or
exit
exit
7.
8 up there? You take off 89, so it's exit 7 then.
We're closer to Exit 7, yes.
Okay.
And we'll be giving tours of the maple orchard, tours of the sugar house. We'll explain how we make maple syrup, and you can watch the process.
I bet it's interesting.
Yeah, my husband will be running the evaporator and boiling, and
Of course, the famous sugar on snow.
yeah, some people serve that.
Yeah,
We have other treats that we'll be serving,
yeah.
but we don't have the manpower to serve sugar on snow because that takes an extra person to do.
I could never understand that. I just, because they have, again, isn't it like ice or icicles, or not icicles, but ice cubes? Or no, it's sugar on snow. Is it actually snow?
You can use snow.
Yeah. What?
Like a snow cone.
That's what I'm thinking of. Yes, Ian, my director. Over
Well,
there.
you can use snow or you can use crushed ice. And what you do, you take maple syrup and you you have to cook it beyond the syrup stage a little bit. I forgot the temperature. And then when you pour it over the snow, it hardens like taffy.
Oh, okay.
So it isn't just maple syrup, it's cooked beyond the maple syrup stage.
Okay.
Otherwise it would just soak in like a snow cone.
You like that, Ian? You do? Okay. Well, we'll have to make sure we get you some maple syrup or snow cone there,
Show
buddy.
you over there this year.
Yes, get you over there. Take a camera with you, too. That'd be good. I know that, of course, you have the maple sugar candies. I've seen that, and maple ice cream, maple. Oh goodness, maple walnut ice cream. That's one. Is that also too out of maple syrup?
Some places make it with maple syrup.
Do they?
At the fairs, at Hopkinen Fair, my husband manages a sugar house at Hopkinen Fair.
Oh really?
And we serve maple milkshakes there.
Really?
And people really love those. They come back year after year, anxious to get their maple milkshake.
Well, he's got his thumbs up over there, so it must be
he's tried it.
Really. Yeah, well, that big grin on his face, he must.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And something else that some people make with maple syrup is maple cream.
Really, maple cream.
This is syrup cooked beyond the syrup stage.
Yeah.
And then it's beat to a creamy consistency. There's no cream in it. It's just a creamy texture of maple syrup. And it's awesome to spread on English muffins or toast or something like that.
Sakes. Can you buy that? And do they have it jarred up or jars or something? And you have it then?
We don't make it, but some producers do. You can buy it at some sugar houses.
Really? Interesting. Wow.
I have not seen it in the stores because it has to be kept refrigerated.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it doesn't keep too long. It starts separating after a while. But if you buy some and you find it separated a little, all you have to do is stir it up, and it's
sure.
as good as new.
Interesting. Wow.
But that's a wonderful treat.
Maple. I was thinking back to the maple shakes there and stuff. Now you use regular milk though for that, and just put the.
We use milk and maple syrup and a few drops of vanilla to make the maple milkshake.
Okay. Wow. Well, I know to put on his birthday list now, or his Christmas list over there. I gotta keep my director happy, you know. But and then what is the hint or the signal that says we're done for the season? Is it now? It used to be, I heard once that when the trees start to bud or something.
When the buds start coming out, start forming on the sugar maples, then it's time to quit because
Really?
First of all, the sap will stop running about then anyway.
Yeah.
Because the trees need that sap to feed the leaves.
Okay.
If the sap does continue to run, it will have an off flavor.
Hmm.
So you don't want to boil that and make that into syrup because it won't taste as good.
Hmm.
But there's one thing, a recent discovery they've made about maple syrup. A few years ago at the University of Rhode Island, they did some research on maple syrup, and they found it contained 54 nutritious compounds.
Really?
It's loaded with vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. And those researchers compared it to blueberries and flaxseed in nutrition.
Hmm.
So you can eat maple syrup and
Wow, I guess so.
be healthy,
I've
not
never-
feel guilty.
Yeah, I never would have known that. Maybe that's why he's smiling so over there. He's really got the grin there. I'll tell you, Barbara, you made him very happy. But I never knew that.
No, this was just discovered maybe 4 or 5 years ago,
Yeah.
and I don't think the word has gotten out that much yet.
I have to. It was kind of funny because I had a friend of mine who worked they owned a store here in Concord years ago on the Heights, and they had a farm out in Webster. And so one day she'd come in. She said, "Do you like some maple syrup?" I said, "Sure." She said, "Well, we've got X amount of quarts of maple syrup we've made for some of our friends, and so she said, we're not selling it obviously, but she said I said, "Sure, I'll take one. I don't mind paying for it." So I got it home and I thought, "Gee, this doesn't look like maple syrup." I said, it's too loose or too watery."
Mm-hmm.
And come find out, and so I was talking to somebody, whether it was my grandmother or somebody, and she said, "No," she said, "that hasn't been boiled enough."
Right.
So she boiled it for us,
Mm-hmm.
and when she got done, there's maybe a teaspoon was left that it could make into syrup.
Oh,
So,
that was really watery then.
And so when I went to work on the weekend on Monday, she said, "How was that syrup?" I said, "Oh, it was delicious." And she said, "Oh, I know, wasn't that good?" And I said, "Oh, yes." And I didn't even get it.
No, you have to boil it to exactly the right density, and we're very particular about that. When Don draws it off, he boils it to about 219 degrees on the
Wow.
evaporator,
Oh, wow.
and that's when it's supposed to be syrup. He draws it off and filters it, and then I have a gas stove in the corner of the sugar house, my little kitchen area, and I double check it and make sure it's exactly the right density.
Mm.
I have a hydrometer that I test it with, and if it isn't exactly the right density, I'll boil it a little bit longer
Yeah.
and then filter it some more if it's necessary until it's nice and clear.
Really?
And then I bottle it up.
Oh.
So we make a pretty good team. He works at one end of the sugar
yeah,
house, and I'm
sure.
working at the other end.
What attracted you to maple syrup in the first place, Barbara? Because you and Don lived in Concord all these years.
Yeah,
those
when we
years.
lived in Concord, we had a sugar maple
Yeah.
in our yard,
Yeah.
a nice sugar maple. And so we started by tapping that and hanging some milk jugs on it.
Okay.
Plastic
yeah.
milk
Yeah.
jugs.
Yeah.
And then we just kind of grew from there. And after a while, he leased trees on other people's property
Okay.
to tap. And we ended up with about 300 taps
Really?
up there.
Oh my goodness.
And because we still only had the one tree in our yard.
Mm.
But anyway, he had to haul the sap down to the sugar house
Yeah.
by truck.
Oh wow.
So he always wanted a place where we could have our own maple orchard right
Yeah,
on our
yeah,
own property.
yeah.
And this is nice. We had to look for a place for a long time
I
before we
bet.
could find a decent house with a
Yeah.
good maple
I'm
orchard.
I'm sure. So how much did you make last year? You said now you make what, gallon, quarts, pints, or do you just
We make half gallons,
Okay.
quarts, pints, and half pints.
Okay.
And then we bottle up some glass containers. Those are between a pint and a half pint.
Sure, sure.
I guess it's 12 ounce. I think it's 12 ounces.
And do you ship it out? Did anybody? Somebody?
If people order it,
do you advertise it? Yeah.
we will ship it. We don't advertise much. We're listed in the Maple Producers Association brochure
Sure.
and on their website. But other than that, we don't advertise because we don't make all that much syrup.
Okay.
And we have customers around
Sure.
the area who come and buy the syrup, so
Sure.
we don't have any trouble selling it.
Now, each year, before you start up, do you have to have, does the state have to come out and inspect for any health board or thing like that? Or
They come and inspect us almost every year.
They do.
But it's during the season.
Okay.
They come and check and make sure everything is up to par, and and they'll open a bottle of syrup, a jug of syrup, and test it and make sure it's the right density and the right and clear and so forth, and graded properly.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's good,
So.
but I'm sure it's expensive for them. Do they charge to come out like that? Do they have you?
No, that's the Department of Agriculture, and that's part
Okay.
of their. That's something that
Their
they have to do.
responsibilities they do,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
their responsibility. So they go around to the different
Hmm.
sugar houses.
And so when the season's over with and everything's packed up for another year, what are the two you do? Do you have another agricultural product you raise? Do you have like another product over there, like strawberries or farming, like cucumbers, corn, all that stuff? Or is it
Well,
just-
we have a small vegetable garden that I raise. I'm
Okay.
a master gardener too.
Oh, good.
So I have a large flower garden,
Okay.
perennial garden, and then at the fairs, Don manages the sugar house at Hopkinton and Deerfield fairs.
Oh, really? Deerfield
Both of
do?
those.
Wow.
Yes. So he gets other producers to bring their syrup in and other maple products to sell at the
Sure.
fair.
Oh, good, good. Well, we're coming to a close of Around Town, and we've been visiting here with Barbara Lassonde and talking about the maple syrup industry and all that goes into it. And
It's very exciting because the season
I'm
has
sure.
started, and
I bet.
and the sap is running, and we're boiling and making syrup and bottling it up, and
So
it's an exciting time of
your
year.
day must start like at what, 5 o'clock in the morning or earlier, and end at like 9 o'clock at night. I mean, how long does a day work like that?
Well, our trees stay tapped all season.
Okay.
We leave the taps in during the season, and then at the end of the day, when the temperatures start cooling off, the sap stops running.
Yeah.
And so that's when Don will go and collect it and bring it to the sugar
Okay,
house, and
gotcha.
he boils at night.
Oh, okay.
I'm a day person,
Yeah.
so I do my end of it usually during the day.
And you're open every day now for sales, or just on the weekend?
We're not in the sugar house all the time
Okay.
unless we're working
Sure.
there, but our house is right next to it, so
Yeah.
if someone's interested in coming for syrup or whatever, check in at the house, and
Sure. And the Big Maple Weekend again is March.
it's March 19th and 20th.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
we
got
hope
that in
people will
mind.
go out and
Well,
make the rounds and visit the sugar houses.
Make sure they do. So
and
that's good.
don't forget to come to ours.
That's right, exactly. And so good. Well, on that note, we'll close the show, and thank you again for coming on, Barbara. And
Oh,
good
you're
luck
quite
to you
welcome.
and Don for another great year of maple syrup. And I'll
Thanks.
make sure my director gets his over there and gets his fill of it. And so, with that in mind, have a great weekend, and don't forget March 19th and 20th for the Maple Syrup Weekend. So, you can go over and see Beaver Meadow
Brook Farm.
Brook Farm. And there's my note, so we're done. I'm Dick Patten on behalf of myself and Ian Marks. We're Around Town, so have a great weekend.